Sorry, y'all. I missed my transition cue. I apologize for that. But hey, if I miss you during announcements, man, my name's John. Really glad you're here. So excited. We're doing it a little bit different today. It's a family service. But before we jump into the service itself, man, let me pray, and we'll finish the transition with hopefully eyes closed. Father, man, we do come, and we say thank you for a day like this. We say thank you that, man, even in the rain, it gives just this internal reminder to slow down, to think of you, to remind ourselves of, hey, what is true, to come and wherever we are, wrestle through. What do we believe? God, so we're asking, we do believe there's no burden or sorrow that heaven can't heal. But man, would you come and help us to learn that? Would you help us to grow? So wherever you are, if you stay sitting, man, take the next 10 seconds and pray that God would use this time to help you, to help your family, to help you consider or grow in faith. If you would now, please take the next 10 seconds and pray for me. Pray that would be useful, pray that would be helpful, and pray that I would connect with both adult and, by the grace of God, 5-year-old. Father, I thank you for the joy. We give you this time, we give you this day. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen. We all again welcome. I shared during the announcements before that the reason today it's a little bit of a different service is because a lot of our body, they're away at something we've been calling Springs Goes to Camp. All that's been is a picture weekend retreat where we got away, went out to Lakey, Texas. Anybody ever been out to Lakey? Y'all know that? Okay, so I've been in Texas 7 years. New Braunfels I thought was the most beautiful part that I'd been to. No disrespect. Lakey's got us beat, y'all. Like, that's gorgeous out there. You get in it, you immediately begin to be reminded of Colorado mountains if you've ever been out there. Just a beautiful place. So that's where I just want to show you guys a photo. This was us last night getting after it. That's some of the springs, and where they are right now is they're sitting in the amphitheater. It's likely raining all over them outside, people wearing raincoats, and they're standing there with this amazing acoustic, and they're singing just the way we sang. And they're overlooking this through this cross, right into a backdrop. There's this cliff face, and there's a river that runs through. So here's what I'm telling you. While we are here getting after it, because rightly so, not everybody could go. They are there thinking and praying for us and getting after it in their own way. So if you've been tracking with us also, you know that we've been working our way through 1 Thessalonians. That's the book of the Bible we've been in. But today, man, I just want to take some time to jump out and talk about something that's just a topic that I personally love. Because maybe take a one-off time from a sermon series, you always get to stop and think, hey, what's something I really think would bless people in the same way it may have blessed me or it's encouraged others? And where I want to start it today is with an illustration. So I'm going to need a kiddo. I'm looking for, I think, 5th grader? We got a 5th grader here? 5th grader? Okay, that guy's literally coming out of his seat. All right, man, hey, come on down. Can I get, I was looking for a mic. It's all right, he can yell really loud. Come on, man, get up here. Hey, give him a round of applause, right? He's nervous, he's scared. Here, come stand on my left, man, that's all right. All right, what's your name? You can try and speak in this.
Sawyer.
Sawyer? All right, what's your last name, Sawyer?
King.
King? All right, Sawyer. Hey, let me ask you this, Sawyer. Do you like to run?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. You ever race? No. Well, the illustration kind of depends on that. So can you nod? Okay. All right. Well, we're off to a great start. All I have to say is, hey, when you race, right, when you run, and let's say you're running with siblings, running with friends, do you try to win?
Yes.
Do you ever mean to lose?
No.
Okay. Well, here's what I want you to do, man. Here, we're going to step down here for safety's sake. We're going to step off this. Here's what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you to take off from right here. Now, you may want to take your flip-flops off. I thought you were going to wear cleats, but we missed that. You're going to take off from right here. You're going to run down and around up to that tower and then come straight back down the middle, and then you'll stop. When you come back here, oh, yeah, I'll hold that for you. Look, man, he's gearing up. I respect that. When you come back here, you will get a prize. You're not supposed to run inside. He's totally going to break that rule. It's going to be wonderful. I love that. He's bragging about sin. Hey, keep coming. We're glad you're here, bud. All right, so ready? You got a runner stance you want to get into? Okay. Now, I'm not even going to time you. All right. Ready? Go. 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 Come on. Come on, Sawyer. Come on. Turn. Turn. Yes, yes. Okay, stop. Stop. There you go. Hey, let's give him one more round of applause. Hey, you work so hard, man. Your prize, solid $20. What? Yeah. That's right. That's right. Here, man, feel free to go take a seat with your parents. Hey, give him one more round of applause, man. That's a tough thing for a Sunday morning. I love that, too. He was sitting in the back right beside his dad, and he does a thing where he, starts sitting on the chair, and then he raises his hand, and then he sees I'm probably not going to call him, so he stands on the chair. And you're like, all right, man, that's commitment. Well, hey, here's the reason I start with that. Here's the reason I start with that. The text we're going to look at today, it uses a metaphor. If you don't know what a metaphor is, it just means picture like a picture of something. It describes something where it talks about faithfulness. Knowing Christ, believing in him, and then growing in that. It describes it like running. And one of the things you heard me ask him right at the beginning, it says, hey man, I'm going to give you a prize at the end of this. I just want you to run. And what does Sawyer do? Right? He didn't know what the prize was. He sprinted, man. He took off. Right? So here's what we want to do today. A lot of times in the Christian life, there's complexity, there's noise to it, there's clutter. So do you ever feel like, kids, if you're with me, you ever feel kind of overwhelmed or distracted? You ever feel like in your relationship with God, you don't necessarily know what the next step might be? Well, if that's you, because that can be me, today's for you. Because here's the goal for our time. We're going to talk about what is the one thing God asks all Christians to do. That's those who've been walking with Christ for generations and now have kiddos and are trying to disciple them in the same faith, as well as for those of us, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth, fifth, growing in that faith ourselves. So again, today we're going to talk about what's the one thing God asks us of us all. And really, as we do that, the benefit we're going to discover is you remove the noise. You remove the clutter. You begin to have the focus, the same thing Sawyer had when he stood up here. All he had to do was run. As you saw him run around, he didn't seem distracted. He didn't seem confused. He knew his goal. There was a prize that would come. He didn't fully know what the prize would be. It could have been, man, I handed him like a cheap piece of chocolate, right? And he still would have smiled. But no, at least for me too, that's $20. That was a good prize. So that's what we're going to talk about today. The place we're going to look at this, you may already know, it's one of my favorite places. It's out of Philippians chapter 3. If you have a Bible, turn to Philippians. It's in your New Testament. So you go past Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Acts, Romans. You'll keep going a little bit. It's short and sweet, 4 chapters. We're going to go to chapter 3. We'll have it up here. You can look at it on your phone, whatever you want to do. All right? We're going to break this idea out pretty quickly. We're going to break it out into two thoughts. The first thought is our one goal, our one mission. It kind of comes in 2 ideas. The first one, forget the past. Forget the past. This one, parents, depending on the age of you, I'm probably talking with you. The second one is this idea, own the present. Own the present. When I say own, and we'll break it out a little bit, what I'm not talking about is you in some way viewing the present like, hey, I'm just going to throw it on my shoulders. I can do this. No. But saying, hey, Christ in me, I'm going to steward now well. Those are the 2 ideas. So to set up this chapter, just so we know where we are in context, the Apostle Paul, he's this big-time church leader. He's written this letter to a church in Philippi. Philippi, it'd be in modern-day Greece. So he's writing a letter to a town in Greece. And the chapter before this, or the same chapter actually, he was talking to them about how we, as followers of Jesus Christ, we don't ever get to brag on ourselves. Like no Christian can come and have what I will call self-confidence, placing confidence in self. Christians are called instead to place confidence in God, in what Christ has done. And the Apostle Paul, he's telling this to these people, and he's saying, this is what I'm doing. He's saying, this is how I'm growing. And he's almost think like this spiritual giant, hero in the faith. And that's the context. But he's going to change gears, and you'll see him set it up with this, where he's going to start with the idea of humility. He's going to remind us that he too, even when he runs, he falls, he scrapes his knee. Even when he runs, he trips out of the starting gate. Even when he runs, he gets tired and he wants to slow down. He's going to humanize himself. And that's where we're picking up the text. We're just looking at verses 12 through 14. So if you'll read with me Philippians 3, 12 through 14, we're going to read through, and then I'll circle back to verse 13. Not that I have already obtained this. This is that faithfulness he's talked about just above. Or I'm already perfect. He's saying he's still got room to grow. But I press on to make it my own. Because Jesus Christ has made me his own. I was marked by this past. There was this view of, I can remember in high school, if I sinned on a Tuesday, and I had a sporting event. I played a lot of soccer. I had soccer on Wednesday or a test on Wednesday. Man, Wednesday was going to be a terrible day. Why? Because of my past yesterday. I never understood the idea of grace and being free. So the first thing Paul's saying is, hey, if you want to run really fast, here's what you don't need to be doing. Remembering the times where you ran fast in the past, and because of it, you think, I got this. That's called coasting. Coasting. In the Christian faith, the Apostle Paul, there's no such thing as coasting. And then here was the other idea where you talk about when you begin to rely on the past, you begin to concentrate on your failures. It's like the runner who gets in their own head because they've tripped out of the starting gate one too many times. And all of a sudden the mental game leads to the terrible run. Right? So they're not coasting, but it leads to crashing. So the Apostle Paul is telling you and he's telling me, hey, forget the past. His past included murder, persecution, anger, self-righteousness, jealousy. And he said, because of what Jesus Christ has done for me, because God wanted a relationship with me, he wasn't going to identify me by my past. He was going to identify me by my faith, what I believe in. And we as Christians, we must do that. Why? It helps us focus on the one goal. Let me give you an example of this. I'm sure like a lot of people, I like reading different books, reading about things, sometimes leadership books, books on sports, all that kind of stuff. I found this intersection where a football coach, he wrote a book, successful football coach, and he referenced this, I came to find out, famous sports psychiatrist. His name's Dr. Larry Rosen. Right, Dr. Larry Rosen. The doctor there, he puts something forward for this sports team. Now, he does it with universities, professional football teams, all those things, and he sets it up where he says, oftentimes, an athlete sets their thoughts and their mind on the wrong goal. The goal can be overwhelming. They'll think through, how do I win the entire game? And he shifts the focus to where, take football, for example, right? You have one down, and then it replays itself one down. He says, don't think about, I have to win the game. He said, think about this. The next play, I have to outwork and win the next play. So he doesn't take this overwhelming goal of, okay, I have to grow in this, I have to be more in this, I have to be the perfect student, I have to be the perfect kid. I have to go to the perfect college, I gotta get the perfect SAT score, I gotta get the perfect job, I gotta marry the perfect person. I gotta get the perfect house with a nice fence, share my retirement package. No. He says, hey, you focusing on the one moment, you win the next down. He says two things about it. It helps you to not only focus on what matters most, staying in the moment, the one goal we're talking about, and the second thing it helps you do, when you lose the down, you don't feel like you lost the game. Because there's times where players, when they're thinking through the whole game and they make one bad play, immediately what happens? They begin to spin out in their own head. Do you ever play tricks on your own mind like I do? Yeah, that kid does. Bless you. I love that honesty, even from a young age. Welcome to church, right? But no, it's true. They begin to oversee that versus seeing, no, I lost one in 20 seconds. I get another shot. No big deal. The righteous fall 7 times, and they get back up. So Christian, here's what I'm sharing with you. You can't live in the past. You can't live in, hey, I was extremely faithful. I took these trips. I read these Bibles. I did Awanas for like 6 years growing up, so now I got enough Bible in my head. Nope. You can't also live in the past with failures. The sins you've committed, the things you've done wrong, the parts of my life that honestly leave scars. I'm not marked by that anymore. I'm free. Because of Jesus Christ, I'm new. So in the same way, athletes, they play down to down. Christian, forget the past. And that's the first part, is we focus on what is this one thing we must do. Let's read verse 13 again, and we're going to pick up the second idea. Verse 13 again, back in chapter 3. Brothers, I do not consider that I've made it my own, but one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind. And then here's the next part. In straining forward to what lies ahead. He goes on in verse 14 to even describe that. I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. The second idea out of this is we go to forget the past. What does the Apostle Paul, what does this church leader also do? He says, own the present. Own the present. Here's what I mean by that. So many times, and I'm sure just like you, I meet folks who either because of the past or laziness in the present, whatever it may be, that they wish that God was doing something in their life today. They wish that they were growing in a faith, growing in a love. They wish that even though religion and the view of God is something far off and they don't really care and they don't really like Him, but they wish that they were making time to at least wrestle with it. And what ends up happening to them is the same thing that can happen to me. I neglect today. And so the Apostle Paul, he's saying, hey, as I forget the past, what do I do instead? I take responsibility. I take ownership for the present. And specifically when he says, what is he talking about? He's talking about faithfulness. Your goal and my goal, the one thing we got to do to remove the clutter is keep the target on. My aim is to be like Him and help others know Him. And that Paul says, he says, hey, I press on, I strain. The language here would literally be like when you watch the Olympics and you see those folks bend down and they go to run a race, right? And if you've seen the Olympics, you know what I'm talking about. They're bent down, they're in the position, and all of a sudden, man, you see every muscle up the arm, you see the tight leg ready to go. They've trained for it. He's literally alluding to, it's like the muscle that has the energy and wants to run. Everyone runs in a different way. Everyone has a different pace, a different plan. But God has called you, God has called me to run. And that's where the Apostle Paul, he says, hey, I'm going to take responsibility for the present. He doesn't default to, because I don't understand it, I'll never know it. Because I don't get it, it must not mean something. No. He doesn't allow himself to say, the Bible has never made sense to me, so it never will. He doesn't allow himself to say, the church has always let me down, so there's no hope in this divine institution that God gives. He's never lived with, hey, me, my fiance, my boyfriend, we've already got sin in the relationship, so why not keep going? He doesn't do that. He doesn't default to, hey, really, I should have been a better parent, 0 to 7 of this child. So this child, I didn't do as well, I'm gonna get it right in the next child. He says, no, today, I'm going to change. Why? Because the goal is how do I become more like Christ? The goal is not, like for the athlete, the goal is not win the championship. The goal is how do I every day train like a champion? And for you and me, Christian, as we forget the past, we cling to today. We own the present. Who here of your kid, who plays sports, right? Anybody? Yeah? Okay. Well, here's a little bit of my glory days with sports. So I'm in high school. I go to pick a sport. I tried football in 8th grade. That's another story. Then I tried wrestling. And then I was like, you know what? I'll play soccer because you can be a goalie. You don't have to run all that much, but you still have to run just as much in practice. Not a good decision. All that to say. So sophomore year is a smaller school, so I'm playing varsity and I'm starting. And hey, we were a good team, but we had much better players. I did my job. But I just kind of went through the motions and I was so grateful for it. My parents said, pick a sport. You got to pick one, you're going to do one. And I was at school and I did that. The end of my sophomore year, our team had, and I'm sure this isn't anybody here, parents who take the sport way too seriously. All right? I'm sure that's not you guys. Right, but parents who took it way too seriously to where at the end of my sophomore year, because this guy, his son was a year older, and he knows, all right, my son, it's his senior year, it's his last time. And he comes to me, and he says, I'll buy you a trainer. Yeah, I'm impressive, I know. He came to me, and here's what I got. This dad who wanted his son to do well, wanted this team to succeed, and that's expensive. He bought me a personal goalie trainer. So for 3 months before my junior year season, and I can remember going to my parents and saying, why do you do that? And I was like, I think that he wants me to be better. And I was like, but I don't know why. I'm phenomenal. No, I was not great. But all that to say is he came. And man, especially, I don't know, when you're a junior in high school, if it's your parents' money, you can take advantage of it in a different way. But when it's your friends' money, even then I had enough of a sense of responsibility of, okay, I got to go to these practices. I got to give my best. And so for 3 months, this is North Georgia, so it's wet all the time. It was colder than it is here. 3 months leading into the season, man, I'm meeting with this guy. I think it was twice a week. Grinding it out, him running me doing drills, me doing all these different kind of things. Shifting from, I'm getting by, to, I'm going to own it. I didn't do that. This trainer helped me do it. It wasn't me. The trainer shifted me to it. Here's what happened. Thankfully, because a lot of the training I did, thankfully because of the dad who went there, soccer became one of the most fun things I did for the next 2 years. I got to do it at a level that I never thought I'd be able to. I got to compete in games I never thought we'd get to. There was a stage with it, and it was fun. Why? Because I just had somebody come and help me see. I'm not saying it won't take discipline. I'm not saying it won't take work. But it'll be worth it. They helped me own the present. And for me, I was 16, 17, and 18. And the goal then was, how do you get a state soccer championship? That was what just everybody lived for. How do you win state? Here's what I'm telling you, the goal and the prize. In the same way, sorry, and I know it's not the same, but the same way we all probably thought it was like, hey, cheap chocolate I give him. Nah, man, to him, $20. To where for us, the goal and the prize is coming before a king who loves you, and he loves me. And standing before him and saying, you called me to run. I ran. This same guy, he'll talk in another place. We're not going to turn there. Where he comes and he says at the end, towards the end of his life, I have run the race marked out for me. God has made you to spiritually run. And when you do it, it's your purpose. When you do it, there's fulfillment. When you do it, it brings joy. It's the greatest adventure. It's the greatest adventure you can ever have. And what's part of that? You got to forget the past. You can't live on the laurels of yesterday's faithfulness, daily abiding, daily getting to know him. You can't live in the past in terms of your failures. I'm not the same guy I was years ago. It would be confusing as a Christian if I still went around identifying myself as one. And then the other thought, you really do got to own the present. I know for many of us at times, spirituality brings on this sense of failure to it, to where I've already messed it up. Why do I pick it up now? Do you guys remember right before Sawyer took off at the beginning? I told him, you will get a prize no matter what. Because of God's love for you, if you believe in him, he doesn't view you as failure. He views you as son, daughter, beloved, heir, cherished one. He's proud of you. Does sin displease him? Yes, in the same way as a child growing up when I didn't treat my parents as I should, man. My dad, he didn't look at me, disown me, be done with me, be angry with me. He just said, man, it hurts. Why? Because I love you. But God in heaven, he's your biggest fan. Because of that, forget the past, own the present. Practically, how do we do that? And I'm going to speak to parenting, even with the discipleship of young kids. One of the greatest ways that I think through, especially growing in faith, right now even owning the moment, is the idea of how do you reclaim already used time? Like how do you reclaim, even if you got kids, already used time? So the way that I think about this is there's tremendously age-appropriate Bibles to where you can, with a young one, sit down and read for 5 minutes and help them learn. And if you don't have time, their quiet time can be your quiet time. The drive to school, redeem the drive to school. If you don't know what to read, there's 31 Proverbs. Turn to one proverb. Ask a kiddo to read if they're able to read. Read to something until there's confusion, and then just start talking about it. Great way to reclaim the time. Long trips. Never again take a long trip without planning. God, may there be intentional conversation. God's not asking you to every night have a devotional around the dinner table, set aside 45 minutes, work through a study, and every kid's supposed to sit there and be quiet after having already eaten all of their vegetables. That's not the goal. His goal is for your child to see you love him. And then in every way you go about life, bring him into it. The other part too, and this can be for students and parents, forget the past. There's some things in life. There was things in my life I wasn't able to just work through on my own. Does that mean that Jesus Christ hadn't fully forgiven me, that I wasn't fully redeemed, that I wasn't fully cleansed, set new on a different path, new clothes? Nope. Doesn't mean that. But it means that you and I, we were built to do this with one another. And so as you go to forget the past, there's things perhaps in your life that honestly you've tried to work through on your own and it's not getting worked through. That's where we want to serve you. We want to help you. There's no place in your life that's too broken, too busted, too far gone that scares any of us or scares God. He loves you and he wants to help. But sometimes in order to forget the past, you know what we got to do? Acknowledge certain moments. And that's where, if there's those areas of your life, come, tell us, fill out that card, let us know. And I pray you'll be met with the same grace that I was met with. What am I asking y'all to do? What's the one thing to remove complexity? Forget the past. Own the present. There was a way that helped me think about this. It was actually when I was dating my now wife, Taylor. So part of my story is before I started dating Taylor for years, I'd kind of grow up thinking I was a Christian. That's where I grew up, like many, perhaps the children here, in a Christian environment, a family that was church attending. So everyone just said that they were a Christian. So I said I was a Christian, right? So I went through life. It took me until I was 22 to realize I wasn't a Christian. That wasn't because of any failure on my parents, any failure on a church or a youth pastor. I just had missed it. It wasn't God's time. Right, but I can remember coming through, and because of that, my time, my life, my student, especially in college for me, it was marked by a lot of pain, a lot of broken relationships, a lot of broken trust, a lot of damage to me, and a lot of damage to others. So I came out of that with this view of, and I don't know if I would have said it this way, if it's just, I am a broken monster. There was a sense of things I touch, die. And I can remember I came and I became a Christian and my life changes because here's what I realized. I don't have to stop trying to be the bad guy. I have to believe, even when I was the bad guy, the good guy, Jesus Christ, died for me to pay the penalty for everything, and it changed me. I share that because 9 months go by, or maybe this was about a year. 9 months after that, I meet Taylor. We start dating. We'd been dating for 3 months, 4 months. I don't remember exactly. And I can remember there was this moment where we were having, just like the same way with friends do, right? With friends. We had a discussion when we really talked about, hey, what do we mean to each other? What does this relationship really look like? And here's what we realized, right? And it was really hard. We realized Taylor meant a lot to me, but I meant more to Taylor. So what that means is Taylor was perhaps leaning more into the relationship at that moment than I was. And hear me say, that's okay. Didn't really know that at the time. Right? Because in that moment, Taylor, because of things in her life, she was starting to cling to me in a different way. Right? But me, you know what I wasn't doing? Forgetting the past. I saw the pain that I caused Taylor, right? Which was unhealthy pain. She shouldn't have felt in that way. She'd be the first to share that. But really the pain I added to it. The moment I saw her pain, this new, beautiful, lovely, Christian, gorgeous, divine thing, I again once had brought pain and brokenness and death to it. And I just immediately went back into, this is who I am. This is what I do. The past me is me, and I will always be me. I couldn't escape this broken view of me. I can remember I was talking on the phone with my dad, just crying like a baby. And my dad, he shared this verse with me from 2 Peter 1. It's just this whole idea of, despite the past, own the present. And I can remember sitting there and thinking, I'm not the same guy. I was once guilty. Now I'm clean. I was once broken. Now I'm blessed. I was once an enemy. Now I'm a child. I was once outside of the family. Now I have a seat beside the Father. I was once a slave to sin. Now, I have a Holy Spirit within me that can change this. And it began to change me. Church, you may need to do just what I need to do. You may need to do in middle school to realize, hey, what people think of you, it's not it. Forget the way you were in 6th grade as you enter into 7th grade. Remind yourself of who Christ sees you. Adults, man, if there's past faithfulness in your life, bless you. Use that. But Jesus Christ doesn't want you to rest in that. If there's past pain, past sin, past failures, you're not identified by that. And that can be confusing for you in the same way it was confusing for me. So come. This is a place where we want to help. Let me pray, and we'll get out of here. Father, I thank you for the truth of that. I thank you for the reality that we are called to forget the past, own the present. I thank you that the only way we can do that is because of your Son, Jesus. How because of him, he came so we would no longer have to work our way back to you. Because you came down to us. How you don't look at us and say, be better, be more. You look at us and say, believe. I love you. I've come for you. Would you help me to do that in my life? Would you help the children, the students, the adults, me, to do that in ours? Would you help us to own the present? Not because we're supposed to, but because we love you. We want to run in faith the way Sawyer ran around this room. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you for joining our first Springs family worship service. And man, y'all go. Have a great week of worship.